Hello everybody, it's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and today we are talking about Blender Cloud. Why are we talking about Blender Cloud? Well, there are a couple of reasons in order. First off, it is an excellent resource for Blender users. Second, it is an excellent way to support the Blender Foundation, so if you like what is happening with Blender 2.8 and the kind of development that's going on there, and you want to support them, this is an excellent way, other than, just giving them money. Third, they just released Spring, a real-time movie. They've been creating these movies for a decade now, a way of dogfooding the Blender development to make sure that Blender has the functionality needed to make these kind of things work. And Spring was just released. You can see a bit of it playing in the background right now. And to go along with Spring, they're actually doing a special offer over on Blender Cloud. So what exactly is Blender Cloud? Well, it is a platform for Blender developers run by the Blender Foundation. It is a bunch of things. It is a collection of the assets from the aforementioned films and a number of other sources. It's a resource with thousands of textures available, including plugins that allows you to access them. We'll see all of that in action in just a minute. It is a number of tutorials and design guides and all that kind of stuff all together. Plus, it is also a platform you can use yourself for working on your own Blender projects and collaborating and sharing with other people. And as I mentioned briefly a few seconds ago, it has also got a bit of a promotion going on. So let's check that out first. We're going to head into the sign up screen here, and you're going to see it is €9.90 a month to join Blender Cloud, but you get the first month free, and they don't actually bill you until that month is up. So if you just want to check it out, you can sign up. You can use either a direct money transfer, credit card, or PayPal to sign up, and you won't get billed until that first month is up. So that €10 a month is about, what is that, 11 or 12 US dollars, about 15 Canadian dollars, and about 30 or 40 pounds these days. Sorry about that, British people. And you also have a number of different options for how to sign up. So you can go here, you can do an automatic or manual renewal. I think you need to set to automatic renewal in order to get the 1 month option, at least for the monthly version. And then you've got monthly, quarterly, half year, and yearly options. And if, for example, if you go with yearly, it drops the price down to around, I don't want to do math, we'll assume that's about $8 a month. So you get a small savings for signing up in advance. All right. So without further ado, let us jump in and actually take a look at Blender Cloud itself. So I've already signed up. I'm going to just go ahead, log in, and you can access Blender Cloud at cloud.blender.org in your browser, and here is your initial page. So you've got kind of a chronological list of what's going on here. And you see you've got a bunch of different assets from these things. So we've got the films that they were making. You've even got the poster that was made for it, the Krita source file. So all of this stuff is very much open source. Generally, it's CC BY licensed, but you can see kind of behind the scenes of making these things. But you also see here we've got tutorials going on. So this is a chronological view. We're going to instead look at things in the order that they're built. So we got up here across the top, films, training, libraries, and services. We'll start first off with films. This is, as I mentioned, all of the assets for all of those various different films that they've created are available here. So for example, the most recent one was Spring. You may have heard of some of these in the past. There's Hero, which was a 2D grease pencil for Blender 2.8. And then in previous years, some of the most popular ones were things like Tears of Steel, Sintel, and Big Buck Bunny. And you have access to all of the resources behind them. So you see here, while we're at Spring, I could, for example, come in and go browse, and we'll be browsing. So here we are. We can go through, look at the production tracking, so on. I want to come back here instead and go to browse, and you see it's broken down into different categories here. So we've got press related stuff, concept art that was behind it, shot progression, production videos, asset and production files, and then tutorials and walkthroughs around the making of this film. And you will find this kind of content for all of the various different things. So you see here there's a procedural volumetric cloud tutorial about how they created them for this particular film. So for example, you could go into the assets, and then we have access to all the characters fully rigged. We also have access obviously to the rig that was used. We've got access to all of the props. And so you see here we got chimes, icicles, pillars, plants, rocks, the staff, and trees. And for example, the staff I already have open. So here you can see the little girl's staff as a production environment or asset running in Blender 2.8. By the way, for the newest films, you do need to use Blender 2.8. So basically, all of the pieces they use to make that film, all of the characters, all of the rigs, all of the environments, all of the textures, everything like that is available for you to download. They can be rather large, and unfortunately, I'm finding Blender Cloud a little slow today, so it can also take a bit of time to download. But here you can see, again, one of the particular assets. You could also download it, all of the rocks, and again, since this stuff is CC BY, do check the specifics of that license, but you can use it in your own projects, assuming that your own source license is compatible. But again, do be sure to check into that stuff. So I'm going to close this down so my CPU fans can chill out a bit. So we'll go ahead and create a new project. There we go. So my fans should wind down a bit, and we'll go back here to look through the other stuff. So that was the films that we were looking at. I'm going to jump that back to the beginning, and instead what we're going to look at is the training. And the training is a giant mishmash of stuff. If you want to learn how to use Blender, this is a great resource for it. So you saw, again, the open movies. We've got production license there for how the movies were actually made. And then we have courses and workshops available. Courses are in-depth training on various different subjects. So you see Grease Pencil, Blender Foundations, scripting for artists, Blender motion graphics, Toon character workflow, Blender for 3D printing, game asset creation, which is definitely one I'll be going through soon, character modeling, character animation, VFX, Maya and Max to Blender migration, advanced rigging, introduction to rigging, Blender VFX workflow, and enhanced renders with digital painting. So each one of these is a pretty extensive course. So for example, we're going to game asset creation. You see this is 5 hours of assets here, various different sections it's broken down into, and again, and you've got over here all of the assets were used in the tutorial. This alone would probably cost you the $100 a year from like a source like trying to think of the Gnomon or various different other training sources online, Lydia, so on. So there's huge value here if you are looking for training, and of course we also have workshops. These are smaller artist-based workshops. So this guy's got, for example, his thing on speed modeling. We'll go in there, and it is broken down again into a bunch of different sections. There's also a number of scenes that you can download yourself to check out, and we'll find those over in the library. So first off, you've got blends that other people have created that you can go ahead and download and play with and kind of see how they created their scenes. And there's a fair number of them in here. So you've broken down by the artist. Then we've also got characters that you can pull down, fully rigged characters you can play with. Now, some of these are from the earlier assets we looked at, so like Sintel or the bunny from Big Buck Bunny. But if you just want characters to get into and learn blending, learn Blender animation, etc., you've got some great resources there. And then two of the coolest things here is we've got a huge collection of 1,500 texture maps that are ready to go, public domain, do whatever you want, licensing, and HDR image maps for your environments. So we've got up to 16K and 24 EV HDRI maps. Let's go in here. We have, let's see, Myanmar, indoor, outdoor, small world, blended skies, and so on. So I'm going to go here to indoor. And you'll see we've got a number of different indoor HDR maps to drop in. And then we could, of course, go to your textures. And you can see your textures in action here. We've got it broken down into a number of different categories. Eyes, marble, metals, plants, and so on. And then the coolest part, which we will see in just a second. So if we move beyond the... So here's the metals that are available. And this is a huge boon. These are like great 4K quality textures. And once again, if you look at the cost here and compare using these things to access to the various different commercial texture libraries out there, it's again a pretty solid deal there. So we're gonna head on back over here though and show you where it really shines. If we go over here to services, the one area I'm not gonna really get into, but as I mentioned briefly earlier on, you can use this as an area for you to actually create and manage your own personal projects, upload assets, collaborate with other Blender Cloud members. That functionality is available here, but where I find it most impressive is the Blender Cloud add-on. Now this is only for Blender Cloud users, but there's also Blender Sync, which allows you to save your Blender configurations in their cloud. This does not require a subscription. It just requires Blender 2.78 or higher. But what I've got here is Blender Cloud add-on. I've downloaded it right here. So just grab this zip, then you're gonna head on over to Blender like so. You go into Edit, you go to Preferences, and you go into Add-ons and Install, and then just pick the zip file, you download it, and then it is good to go. I will come in here and we will search for the word Blender. This is a two-step process. So first thing you've got is you got to go into your Blender ID authentication and basically just log in. You'll get a token that's good for like a year, but make sure you enable Blender ID authentication. It'll be installed as part of this process. And then what you want to do is enable Blender Cloud, and you are now good to go. So once you have both of those in there, you can access that entire library of Blender assets. There are two ways to go about doing this. First off, you can go into UV editing mode like so, anywhere you would use an image. You will now find you have a Get Image from Blender Cloud option available up there. Or if you are directly somewhere here, for example, you can do Control, Shift, Alt, and A. Oh, I gotta save first. Just a sec. File, save. YouTube demo of BC. All right, so we'll save that guy. All right, so now that I've done that, Control, Shift, Alt, A, and then it will basically be logging you in and accessing the Blender Cloud directly from within Blender. So here we've got Dust City, HDRI, texture creation, and textures. It's mostly this one and this one you're going to be most interested in. So say we wanted a texture for our box there. We could come in here, grab, say, a metal texture for it, and then you're going to get a preview of what is there. Now, you'll notice below each one, so for example, this one shows it has like a diffuse map, or I guess I should stop calling them diffuse maps, abato maps, and a normal. Here you see you've got diffuse, bump, normal, and specular, and you got a bit of a preview of what you're getting. So this one has a bump only. We'll go ahead, we'll grab it. And now if I go back over here to the UV editing, look at our images, you will see we now have that metal bumpy texture available to us. Had I grabbed one with the 3 or 4 textures, I would have gone ahead and downloaded all of them. So that is another perk of joining the Blender Cloud. Again, probably the biggest perk here is it is the most direct way to support them. But as you saw, as we were flipping through Blender Cloud, there is a huge wealth of training opportunities here. Like I said, there's that 1,500 plus textures in there, access to all of the production behind all of their films that have been created over the last decade. And in those, again, you have a bunch of training there as well. Huge HDRI and texture library there. It's an impressive bundle for $10 a month. And the coolest thing is, as I mentioned, to go along with the announcement of the spring release, they now have that first month free via the well, first month's free. So if you do want to check it out, again, you have to sign up, you have to buy everything, but you will not be charged until the first month is up. And I guarantee I did it. I signed up earlier on yesterday, and it works out just fine. So that is Blender Cloud. Again, a great way to support Blender, but also a great way to get access to a huge amount of resources to help you learn to use Blender better. If you, be it in game development, in film development, or just general usage, there is something here for everyone. Or you can just look at it as a 1,500 texture library that is integrated directly into Blender itself, as we just saw earlier on. It is an impressive collection, a great way to support Blender, and a great project overall. So let me know what you think of it down below. Are you a Blender user? If so, have you already tried out Blender Cloud, or are you willing to try it out now? What do you think of that 1 month free? I say you got nothing to lose, really. Definitely give it a shot, check it out, and let me know what you think. Comments down below. All right, talk to you all later. Goodbye.